Welcome to NFL World, where NFL starts and ends. I'm your host, Jacob. And as the trade deadline has passed over about 40 minutes ago, let's recap what happened. Now, the first trade that happened technically happened yesterday, but it only became official today. So it was the trade the Seattle Seahawks made with the Giants for Leonard Williams. I'm reading this off my iPad here. It goes and says, the New York Giants have traded Leonard Williams to the Seattle Seahawks for a 2024 second rounder and a 2025 fifth rounder. And that's a big trade. It's a massive trade. And if I'm Seattle, that means you have to improve. So you did. You brought in an interior defensive lineman. Next, this is what started to happen on trade deadline day as the Bears shocked everybody. Go and say they go and trade for the Commanders for Montez Sweat. Sweat, Young, and Allen, the three defensive linemen, had all said that they wanted out in some capacity. Montez Sweat went, let me see if I can find it, for a 2024 second. He's going to want to get paid. He's already been paid. And now he's gone. Next up, the Vikings get a quarterback. Now, the rumor yesterday was it was going to be Jameis Winston. Cheap contract, shouldn't cost a whole lot. I still held out hope that it was going to be Colt McCoy because I thought that was a better fit for the team. But they go and make a trade, but it's not for Jameis Winston. It was for Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs was benched for Clayton Tune, the fifth round pick out of Houston. And he is now in Minnesota. They are sent, besides Dobbs, the Vikings are sending a 2024 sixth round pick to the Cardinals, who are getting both Dobbs. The Vikings are getting both Dobbs and the 2024 seventh. Next up, this is where it starts to get a little crazy. Hang on a second. This was found out on Twitter as the Vikings had traded offensive guard Ezra Cleveland to the Jaguars. Cleveland, who was a really good football player, he just hasn't played a whole lot. They sent for a third day pick. It was a sixth round pick. It was surprising with what the contract went and what they sent for him in exchange for Ezra Cleveland. Cleveland was not a starter, but it's hard to find offensive line depth. So when people are willing to just get rid of it for very little, it's kind of like, okay, there's either something really wrong or they don't want him anymore. And so now Cleveland is in Jacksonville. Next up, this is where it's not a shocker. We knew San Francisco was going to go get some help on the defensive line. We just didn't know who. Well, the 49ers have traded for Chase Young for only a third round pick. Now, this is where it drives me insane. This is a young talent. I understand he's coming off the injuries. I get it. For a third, and no other team was like, you know what? Let's try and boost that. We might not get it, but let's force it to be like a second or a first. Because if San Francisco really wants him, they'll pay for that. There it is. The Browns have traded Donovan Peoples-Jones to the Lions. Jones is getting sent to Detroit for a 6th-round pick. Jones has been one of the better wide receivers in Cleveland and is now on his way to Detroit onto a 6-2 team after just beating the Raiders. Next up, and final trade that was really important was the Packers and the Bills made a trade. The Bills and Packers trade was for Russell Douglas, the inside cornerback, for a 5th-round pick. Now, for a 3rd-round pick. It's a 3rd for the Packers, but when the comp pick formula comes out after this year, the Bills, if they decide to not bring back Douglas, would get a 5th due to how the comp pick formula works. So, those are the trades for the trade deadline day. Now, I do want to make this abundantly clear. Besides the teams that were not in it, they weren't going to win, I want to say this. Every team except one upgraded a little bit or traded for somebody. The one team that didn't do it was the Cowboys. They sat on the hands on this one. Now, you can look at this in 2 ways. You can look and say, okay, this is because they love their defense. Their defense, they don't feel they have to improve it. They feel they're really good, which they are. They are really good. You can always improve. So I don't agree with that. They also try and pretend that they're the only ones that this is a smart decision. I don't see it. How is that a smart decision? I don't know. So if I'm Dallas, I don't like that. The next thing I didn't like was you need offensive line depth. Your offensive line has been beaten and battered over and over again. You can't afford for that to happen. You have linebacker depth issues. You're one cornerback injury away from being where you were last year. That can't happen. You lost Diggs this year. You needed something. And you decided that it was too expensive. So if I'm Dallas, remember, like if you're on this side of it, you should say, you know what? We're a good football team, but we need to get better. So take a swing. Who cares if it's expensive? Take the swing. Screw the salary cap. Let's take a swing. Because the team, I'm 100% certain the Rams don't regret anything when they were saying F them picks during those years. They went to 2 Super Bowls and won 1. The Cowboys haven't done that. So if you have extreme faith in that these group of guys are going to be able to do that, I don't know why. I don't know why you should, personally. Now, if you're the Cowboys, and we'll talk about this on tomorrow's show, the bad side of it is that, again, if you get injured, what are you going to do? The good side is you have a lot of faith in your roster. But no one was even born when, besides, there was a couple players that were born that saw the Cowboys win a Super Bowl, and they were in diapers. That's how long ago this was. Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, and I think Tank Lawrence. They're the only 3, if I remember correctly. Everyone else, they don't remember. And not even the Tyron and Zach and Tank remember. Lawrence, Smith, and Martin don't remember. Dak is 30 as well. I forgot that name. But again, they were all infants. They don't remember. So I wish the Cowboys would have made a trade. I understand you have a lot of faith in your roster. I just wish they would have done something and be more productive during the deadline. They want to make trades. They want to do all these things for the right price. Not the right price as in what's it going to cost, the right price for them. And that is why people get upset with Jerry and Steven because they're not willing to say, let's go swing for the fences. The Cowboys say, let's be good for 10 years, a good football team, make the playoffs 8 of the 10, but never get past the first round, where instead of being swing and miss or swing and hit for 10 years, maybe make the Super Bowl once or twice, possibly winning it, and then be bad for 4 or 5 years. It's just sometimes I wish the Cowboys were more aggressive and took more chances, because that's the only way you're going to find success is if you take a swing, you take a leap, and see what happens. For NFL World, I'm Jacob Hebert at the end of the trade deadline. Out.